Peace and love, y'all. My name is Mamadou. This is Questions on the Red Couch. Right. That's a good first question. What would you say to people who find poetry boring? That's an interesting question because I think the source of it is why is their first inclination to think of poetry as something boring. I think if anything, I wouldn't be so quick to judge them because it would be based on their experiences of life. So I would just show them, I guess, all the inspirations and the people who have meant a lot to me, in terms of like um, my love and desire to be a poet and to write. So show them a lot of maybe some Macy's there, um, Nikki Giovanni, Tupac, and just also just showing the blends between poetry and other mediums that they may be interested in, because I think there's a people mistake that things in art have to be in such binaries, but poetry, music, film, they all speak together. So I think if somebody said poetry is boring, I would try to connect poetry with something that they're interested in, maybe poetry and basketball. So just try to tell them of like the commonality between poetry and other means of life, poetry and breathing. I think it's synonymous with a lot of things in life. So that's what I would say. Second question. What is wilted rose? Yeah, that's such a good question, man. It's wilted rose worldwide is a creative agenda that I'm really trying to build. It's always been a motif of mine, since I really started on my kind of songwriting and art kind of journey. But I think wilted rose, the dynamic of a rose being wilted, for me that is so enticing is the fact that something. I think a lot of the times in our world we try to neglect things that are have been bruised and things that have been kind of neglected. And so I think the wilted rose is to amplify the voices of those who have been bruised, both mentally, physically, emotionally, but to show that there's beauty in this kind of stitching and this restitching of something that is bruised, and to still see the beauty of it, to seek redemption, and to allow people the space to seek redemption. And I try to create a world where we're seeking refuge, seeking redemption, redeeming oneself, finding oneself in the chaos of who they are. And I think the wilted rose embodies all of that. And so it's a I don't even want to say it's a brand. I think it's an agenda, that I think you guys will be seeing more of, moving forward, because it's gonna be intertwined with a lot of the things I have going on in both film, music, and in poetry. And so that's what wilted rose is. But more to come for sure. Wow. Does your relationship with God make it easier or harder to be an artist? Man, that's such a question. I think it's definitely made it harder, for especially these past couple of years. I think it's been an interesting journey, putting myself on display and having the world, whether it's through digital platforms or just being in person, I guess, sharing my art in that way, and kind of going through the ebbs and flows of that, while also developing my relationship with God, and I guess rekindling my relationship with my faith, my Islamic faith. And I think it's definitely been harder, because I think it's trying to navigate, being an intentional artist, in maybe spaces where I feel as if having to feel like I'm compromising certain aspects of my identity in order to integrate into that certain space. I think it's made me. I think for sure, this is one of the first times I performed in a minute. I took a real hiatus from performing, due to that fact of wanting to kind of watch myself and watch the spaces that I was in. And I think that came with a lot of just me trying to be intentional with who I am, not only as a Muslim but as an African, person, and sharing my art with people who look like me, who speak like me. And so yeah, I definitely think so. But I think it's also further clarified my position, and it's constantly clarifying my position as an artist, that I may not want to be the mainstream. That might not be in God's plan for me, but I think I just want to be an artist that when they see when people who say my name or who hear my name, that it's very specific and intentional in terms of who and what I represent. And I've kind of surrendered or retired from any inclination of me wanting to be mainstream or anything like that. And I think that the road is definitely taking a different turn because of that. But I think it's been more impactful like that way. So that's a good question. Are you working on any films? Yes, I'm working on a lot of different films. Some films that I can't fully talk about because they're in the developmental stage. But I'm writing both for short films and for a feature. I'm extremely excited for these next couple of years because I think I've slowly been able to get the resources around me in order to bring life into the type of stories in regards to Afro surrealism, first generation West African stories, and doing these type of narrative projects and an experimental, but also a kind of narrative kind of way. And that's definitely something you guys will be seeing in the next couple of years. So got some short films that I'm working on in the midst of that. Constantly just sharpen my pen in the language of creating, but the goal longer term is to get to that feature. And so all of those are to come. And so I'm excited to share that with you guys when the time comes. And yeah, what's a conversation you're sick of hearing about? I don't know. I mean, a conversation I'm sick of hearing about. That's a good question. Conversation I'm sick of hearing about. Oh, I'm sick of hearing about. I don't know. I just think that whenever people, I guess, I don't know. I'm not sure about that. That's a good question. I think maybe it's like when people talk bad about the Knicks. Like that's probably that's probably like I'm sick of people talking bad about my team because it's like I really like my team and so I'm sick of people talking bad about my Knicks. I guess exactly. Always. Who's the greatest artist to come out of Harlem? That's a crazy question to put me on camera to say that. That's insane. I don't know. I mean, it's too many. It's too many. I mean, like because it's like what generation? We had a whole Harlem Renaissance. We had like what I'm saying like this. I can't even put one artists because there have been generations and generations of life-changing artists who have touched the soil of Harlem by default. So yeah, I can't claim one. I don't think that's fair in any way. Yeah, I mean what like you got James Baldwin, you have like what I'm saying? Like there's too many people who touch Harlem and then you go all the way to like Big L and Cameron, Dipset and what I'm saying? Like it's just kind of impossible. So that whole spectrum, I would just say like the greatest artist. I guess Harlem is the hub of the greatest artists. Maybe I'll revert the question, or some of the greatest artists. Rate the Knicks all season. Man, I was just talking about this. I think the Knicks did great, man. Like granted with all the injuries and everything like that. I think that I'm proud of my team, man. I think the Knicks are going in a great direction, man, and I'm excited for the Mikal Bridges, trade. I think that's a great acquisition. I think the Knicks finally have an identity, and so I'm excited about next year. Losing the Hartenstein was a little tough, but the Knicks are in a great direction, and I could finally say that with confidence. So yeah. Wow, it's a powerful question. What's one piece of advice you have for youth who don't fit in? Man, that's laid. One of the phrases or mantras that I really live by is like to fully surrender to the multiplicities of yourself, to the shades of yourself, instead of trying to live in these binaries. I think we feel as if like to be strong and vulnerable are contradictions, but I think they're mutually inclusive, right? And I think a lot of youth, especially from where I'm from, in Harlem, and a lot of just first generation African kids in general, I think, because of the pressures to and the urgency, right, to succeed and to transcend generations of struggle and strife, you want to categorize yourself in an identity, for the sake of comfort, for the sake of just yeah, I guess for the sake of comfort, but you regress into a shell of who you really are, and you don't allow yourself the full spectrum of emotions. And that work and that internal work comes into play at some point if you don't, confront it. So I guess my advice to the youth is to fully immerse yourself into the shades of yourself, because you'll be a more thorough human. And if you don't fit in, I think that's a plus, because then you stand out. And I think if you stand out, and you're affirmed in standing out, I think you can encourage other people to do the same. And I think that's what I'm trying to do, right, with my art. You know, to be both vulnerable, but to also show that as a man you can have the duality of, you can be a man and be extremely vulnerable with your work, and that's not a contradiction. And so that would be my advice to the youth, and something that I think I'm trying to, keep pushing with my work, for sure. And that's questions from the right couch.